In this alternate Star Wars timeline, the Separatist Alliance, led by Count Dooku and the Confederacy of Independent Systems, triumphs over the Galactic Republic. The Jedi are scattered, the clone army is destroyed or absorbed into the Separatist ranks, and the galaxy enters a new political order under corporate and planetary rule. But victory for the Separatists doesn't necessarily mean freedom for all. It may just replace one form of tyranny with another. The consequences ripple through every corner of the galaxy, altering the fate of familiar characters and reshaping the Force's balance. The Jedi Council chamber was silent as the decision was made. Anakin Skywalker stood in the center, his blue eyes fixed on Master Yoda, who finally nodded. The words felt like thunder in the young Jedi's ears. He was to be granted the rank of Jedi Master. For a brief moment, he could hardly breathe. The Council had never placed such trust in one so young. The weight of the title settled over him quickly. As a master, Anakin was now entrusted with the deepest secrets of the Order, including access to the Jedi Archive's restricted section. He walked the halls of the temple that day with a sense of purpose, knowing his life and the fate of the galaxy was changing. Palpatine's manipulations still echoed in the background, but now Anakin felt armed with authority and wisdom. He was no longer a frustrated knight, kept at a distance from the Council's inner workings. Mace Windu, though cautious, began including him in key war strategy meetings. Yoda spoke with him privately about the balance of the Force and the dangers of fear. The Clone Wars raged on, and Anakin's leadership grew. He fought alongside Obi-Wan Kenobi on the Outer Rim, but with a new patience that surprised his former master. Even in battle, his temper cooled faster, his judgment sharpened. The 501st Legion followed his orders without hesitation, sensing his growing command not just through rank but respect. In the quiet hours, Anakin visited Padme Amidala, speaking of peace after the war. Yet now he believed such peace was possible without betraying the Jedi. His visions of her death still haunted him, but as a master, he had access to ancient Jedi healing texts and wisdom from the archives that spoke of destiny, attachment, and acceptance. When Palpatine revealed his true identity as Darth Sidious, Anakin's choice was clear. He reported directly to the Council. Side by side, Anakin, Mace, and Yoda confronted the Sith Lord. The duel was fierce, the air crackling with energy, but united, the Master struck Sidious down before his darkness could consume the galaxy. Anakin stood afterward, lightsaber in hand, breathing hard. The war was over. The Republic, though scarred, had hope. And the young man who once feared being powerless had become the master the galaxy needed. Anakin Skywalker stood at the edge of the Jedi Council chamber window, looking out at the endless cityscape of Coruscant. The hum of speeders filled the air as he tried to take in what had just happened. The Council had voted. For the first time in generations, a Jedi, so young, was being elevated to the rank of Master. He felt the Force swirl around him, powerful and calm, as if acknowledging this moment. When Master Yoda placed his hand gently on Anakin's shoulder, the message was clear. This was more than an honor. It was a responsibility. Mace Windu, still guarded in his expression, spoke firmly, warning Anakin that the path ahead would test him in ways he had never imagined. Obi-Wan Kenobi smiled faintly, pride mixed with quiet concern. As the days passed, Anakin's new role began to shape him. In strategy meetings, his voice carried greater weight. He was trusted with classified missions, commanding not just clones, but the respect of the entire Jedi Order. The 501st Legion followed him with unshakable loyalty, and even the cautious masters began to see a steadier man emerging from the fiery knight they once doubted. Padme Amidala noticed the change too. In the soft light of their private meetings, Anakin spoke less of fear and more of hope. He shared with her the wisdom he found in the restricted archives, teachings about patience, balance, and the truth of the Force. His visions of her death still troubled him, but now he sought to understand them, not control them. When Chancellor Palpatine began to reveal his supposed knowledge of the dark side, Anakin listened carefully, but no longer felt the same pull. He saw the shadow behind the Chancellor's charm. The moment Palpatine exposed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin did not hesitate. Rallying with Mace Windu and Yoda, Anakin fought beside them in the Chancellor's office. Lightning lit the room, blades clashed in a storm of power, but this time, the Sith Lord faced a united front. With skill and strength, the Jedi Masters overpowered him, ending his reign before it began. Standing in the quiet after the battle, Anakin felt the Force settle within him. The galaxy had been spared a dark future, and he had walked the path of a true master. Anakin Skywalker felt the weight of his new title every time he stepped into the Jedi Council chamber. The Masters now looked at him not as a brash young knight, but as one of their own. The glow of Coruscant's skyline poured through the tall windows, casting golden light on the polished floor as Anakin listened to their discussions with fresh responsibility. Yoda's calm voice often reminded him that mastery was not about power, but about understanding. Mace Windu, though still cautious, began to trust Anakin's instincts in battle strategy. Obi-Wan Kenobi noticed the change as well. His former Padawan seemed more measured now, speaking with thought instead of impulse. The war, however, did not slow down. Anakin led the 501st Legion into some of the most dangerous campaigns in the Outer Rim. His decisions saved thousands of lives, and even the most veteran clone commanders respected his leadership. The Jedi archives, now open to him, gave him access to ancient wisdom that began to calm the storms in his heart. In the quiet hours with Padme Amidala, he spoke of a galaxy at peace and the family they could raise without fear. His visions of her death still lingered, but instead of letting them control him, he sought counsel from the oldest Jedi records. There, he found lessons about destiny and the acceptance of what the Force willed. When Chancellor Palpatine tried to lure him with promises of power to save Padme, Anakin recognized the manipulation for what it was. The trust the Council had shown him had given him the clarity to see through the lies. He went straight to the Jedi Temple and informed the Council. Together, Yoda, Mace, and Anakin confronted Darth Sidious. The battle was fierce, blades striking with the speed of lightning. The room filled with the crackle of dark energy, but the combined strength of three masters proved too much for the Sith Lord. When it was over, Anakin stood among his fellow Jedi, the hum of his lightsaber fading into silence. The Republic had been spared from falling into darkness, and he felt the Force flow through him in calm waves. He had become not just a master in title, but in truth. Anakin Skywalker walked through the Jedi Temple halls with a new sense of purpose. The title of Jedi Master was not just a rank to him. It was a promise. The Council had placed their trust in him, and he intended to prove worthy of it. The echoes of his boots on the polished floors sounded different now, heavier with responsibility. In the Council chamber, Yoda spoke to him often about patience, reminding him that mastery meant control over oneself before control over the galaxy. Mace Windu began to share mission details that had once been kept secret from him. Obi-Wan Kenobi looked at him with quiet pride, sensing that his former Padawan was maturing into the leader the Jedi needed. The Clone Wars still raged, but Anakin's approach began to change. On the battlefield, his commands were precise, his strategies careful. The 501st Legion followed without hesitation, their loyalty matched by admiration. His reputation as a warrior was already unmatched, but now he was becoming known for his wisdom. In private moments with Padme Amidala, he spoke more of hope than fear. The ancient Jedi texts he studied in the restricted archives gave him insight into the nature of the Force and the dangers of attachment. His visions of Padme's death still haunted him, but instead of letting them drive him toward desperation, he began to accept that some things were beyond control. When Chancellor Palpatine began to speak of forbidden powers, Anakin listened with caution. He could sense the darkness beneath the smooth words. The authority and confidence granted by his new rank allowed him to resist the temptation that once would have drawn him in. The day Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin moved swiftly. He warned the Council, and together with Yoda and Mace Windu, he confronted the Sith Lord. The clash of lightsabers shook the room, bursts of lightning splitting the air, but the unity of three Jedi Masters was unbreakable. When the battle ended, Anakin stood in the stillness, his breathing steady, the darkness fading from the chamber. The war was not yet over, but the galaxy had been spared from the grip of the Sith. In that moment, Anakin knew he had truly become the master he was meant to be. Anakin Skywalker stood in the center of the Jedi Council chamber, the soft hum of Coruscant's traffic far below echoing faintly in the distance. The Masters had spoken. He was now a Jedi Master. The words still felt unreal to him, yet the weight of the responsibility was already settling on his shoulders. Master Yoda reminded him that mastery was not the end of the journey, but the beginning of a greater test. Mace Windu's eyes were steady, his voice warning Anakin that power without restraint could still lead to ruin. Obi-Wan Kenobi gave a faint smile, his pride clear, but so was his concern for what lay ahead. As the war pressed on, Anakin took command with a new clarity. His orders to the 501st Legion were sharper, his strategies more deliberate. He began to win battles not just through strength, but through patience and foresight. Even veteran Jedi like Ki-Adi-Mundi and Plo Koon took note of his growth. In his private hours with Padme Amidala, the change was just as visible. He spoke of ending the war without surrendering to fear. His visions of her death still stirred unease, but the wisdom he found in the ancient Jedi archives taught him acceptance. He began to believe that true love was not about control, but about trust in the will of the Force. When Chancellor Palpatine began hinting at forbidden powers, Anakin was no longer the frustrated knight desperate for answers. He recognized the subtle manipulation and the shadow behind the words. His loyalty to the Jedi and his rank as master gave him the confidence to resist. The moment Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin acted without hesitation. He alerted the Council, and together with Yoda and Mace Windu, entered the Chancellor's office. The battle was fierce, red and blue blades clashing, lightning sparking against the walls. But their unity was unbreakable. Sidious was defeated, his plans collapsing before they could take shape. Anakin stood with his fellow masters, the hum of his lightsaber slowly fading. The Force flowed through him in calm, steady waves, and in that quiet moment, he knew he had fulfilled the promise of his title. Anakin Skywalker walked slowly through the great hall of the Jedi Temple, his mind still processing the Council's decision. He was now a Jedi Master. The golden light of Coruscant's skyline spilled through the tall windows, casting long shadows as he passed. The title was more than an honor. It was a burden he had sworn to carry with discipline. In the Council chamber, Master Yoda spoke to him about the deeper meaning of the Force, urging patience and humility. Mace Windu, though still guarded, began to share with Anakin missions of the highest secrecy. Obi-Wan Kenobi, his friend and mentor, saw the change already. Anakin's steps were more deliberate, his words more measured. The Clone Wars did not pause for his new title. On the battlefield, Anakin's leadership evolved. He commanded the 501st Legion with precision, planning strategies that saved lives rather than simply chasing victory. The clones felt his respect for them, and in return, they followed his orders without hesitation. Even other Jedi commanders began to trust his judgment above their own. In quiet moments with Padme Amidala, Anakin spoke of a peaceful future without fear. The restricted Jedi archives, now open to him, revealed ancient teachings about life, death, and the will of the Force. His haunting visions of Padme's death no longer drove him into panic. They became lessons in acceptance, though his love for her remained as strong as ever. When Chancellor Palpatine began to speak of powers that could save life, Anakin listened, but no longer felt the desperate pull. His rank as master gave him the confidence to question and the clarity to see the shadow of deceit. The day Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin moved with certainty. He informed the Council, and alongside Yoda and Mace Windu, entered the Chancellor's chambers. The duel was intense, blades striking in blinding arcs, the room flashing with the clash of light and shadow, but the unity of three masters was unshakable. When Sidious fell, the darkness seemed to lift from the city. Anakin stood among his fellow Jedi, the hum of battle fading. The Force surrounded him in stillness, and he knew, in that moment, he had truly become the master he was destined to be. Anakin Skywalker stood in the center of the Jedi Council chamber, the tall windows framing the endless skyline of Coruscant. The voices of the Masters echoed in his mind. They had granted him the title of Jedi Master. The air in the room felt different now, heavier with responsibility and expectation. Master Yoda's eyes held both kindness and caution as he reminded Anakin that true mastery was not about control over others, but mastery over himself. Mace Windu's expression remained guarded, but his tone carried a note of respect that had not been there before. Obi-Wan Kenobi smiled faintly, the pride of a teacher who knew his student had finally reached his potential. In the days that followed, Anakin began to feel the shift within himself. As a master, he was given access to missions of the highest secrecy. The restricted Jedi archives were now open to him, revealing ancient wisdom and forgotten history. His time on the battlefield changed too. His orders to the 501st Legion became precise and thoughtful, his victories won through strategy as much as skill. Padme Amidala noticed the difference when they met in quiet corners of the city. Anakin no longer spoke with desperation about her fate. His visions of her death still haunted him, but now he approached them with the understanding that the Force had its own flow. The fear that had once clouded his judgment began to fade. When Chancellor Palpatine began to speak of powers beyond the Jedi, Anakin listened without falling into temptation. The confidence given by his new rank allowed him to see through the flattery and manipulation. The truth came soon enough. Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious. Anakin wasted no time. He alerted the Council, and together with Yoda and Mace Windu, confronted the Sith Lord. The duel that followed was fierce, lightsabers clashing in bursts of light, the air alive with the crackle of Force lightning. But the unity of three masters was too much for Sidious to overcome. When it was over, the room was silent except for the faint hum of deactivated blades. Anakin stood tall, the Force calm within him. In that moment, he knew he had truly stepped into the role the galaxy needed him to play. Anakin Skywalker walked into the Jedi Council chamber with steady steps, the warm glow of Coruscant's skyline shining through the vast windows. The decision had been made. He was now a Jedi Master. The words carried both pride and an unspoken weight. Every master in the room knew that with this title came trials far greater than any battle fought with a lightsaber. Master Yoda looked at him with calm wisdom, reminding him that a true master seeks balance within before seeking victory without. Mace Windu spoke with a tone of respect, yet his watchful gaze never left Anakin. Obi-Wan Kenobi's smile was subtle but sincere, knowing his friend had reached a point few in the Order ever achieved. The war demanded his attention immediately. The 501st Legion followed him into the Outer Rim with renewed trust, their loyalty stronger than ever. Anakin's strategies became more calculated, avoiding needless losses and turning battles through foresight rather than reckless speed. Even other Jedi generals began seeking his counsel. In the rare moments of peace, Anakin sat with Padme Amidala in the quiet of her apartment. His visions of her death still stirred unease in him, but they no longer consumed him. The restricted sections of the Jedi archives, now open to him, offered wisdom about destiny, the nature of fear, and the strength that comes from acceptance. When Chancellor Palpatine began to speak of powers the Jedi did not possess, Anakin listened carefully, but no longer felt the desperate hunger for answers. His position as a master gave him the clarity to see the shadow behind the words and the danger hidden beneath the promises. The truth could not stay hidden forever. Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious, and Anakin moved without hesitation. He warned the Council, joining Yoda and Mace Windu in confronting the Sith Lord. The duel that followed filled the Chancellor's office with light and shadow, blades striking with speed and precision, the air crackling with the Force itself. When Sidious finally fell, silence returned. Anakin stood with the other masters, the hum of his lightsaber fading. The war was not yet over, but in that moment, the galaxy had been spared from the darkness he had once feared. Anakin Skywalker stood in the center of the Jedi Council chamber, the soft hum of Coruscant's traffic faint in the distance. The masters had spoken. He was now a Jedi Master. The title carried pride, but it also pressed on him like a weight, reminding him that every choice from this moment forward would shape the fate of the galaxy. Master Yoda's calm gaze held both encouragement and warning. He told Anakin that true mastery meant victory over the darkness within. Mace Windu spoke firmly, acknowledging Anakin's skill but urging discipline. Obi-Wan Kenobi's expression was one of quiet pride, knowing his former Padawan had reached a place few Jedi ever would. The war did not pause for celebrations. Anakin's first missions as a master took him to the Outer Rim, where the 501st Legion followed his lead with unwavering trust. His strategies became sharper, his judgment more deliberate. Even in the heat of battle, he chose precision over reckless speed, earning respect from fellow Jedi commanders. In the peaceful hours, Anakin visited Padme Amidala, speaking not with fear but with hope. His haunting visions of her death still came, but the teachings he found in the restricted Jedi archives helped him to face them. Ancient wisdom spoke of trust in the will of the Force and the danger of trying to control fate. When Chancellor Palpatine began to hint at forbidden knowledge, Anakin listened but saw clearly the manipulation hidden beneath the words. His new rank gave him the strength to resist temptation and the authority to act on what he knew was right. The day Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin did not hesitate. He went directly to the Council, joining Yoda and Mace Windu to confront the Sith Lord. The duel was fierce, blades flashing, the air crackling with power, but their unity proved too strong for Sidious to overcome. When it was over, Anakin stood in the stillness, his lightsaber dim at his side. The darkness had been stopped before it could engulf the Republic. In that moment, he felt the Force flow through him with clarity, and he knew he had truly fulfilled the role of a Jedi Master. Anakin Skywalker entered the Jedi Council chamber with a calm he had not felt in years. The Masters had made their decision. He was now a Jedi Master. The title echoed in his mind, not as a symbol of power, but as a reminder of the responsibility now placed upon him. Master Yoda's voice was steady as he told Anakin that a Master's greatest challenge was mastering himself. Mace Windu, though still watchful, spoke with measured respect, acknowledging that Anakin's skill and determination had earned this place. Obi-Wan Kenobi's quiet smile carried pride and a hint of relief. The war, relentless as ever, gave Anakin little time to reflect. Leading the 501st Legion across the Outer Rim, his commands were precise, his strategies calculated to protect lives rather than simply win battles. His men followed him without question, not only because of his rank, but because of the respect he had earned. Other Jedi commanders began turning to him for advice, seeing in him a leader who balanced strength with patience. When the fighting paused, Anakin would meet with Padme Amidala in the safety of her apartment. The visions of her death still haunted his dreams, but the ancient knowledge now available to him in the restricted archives gave him perspective. He began to understand that the Force flowed beyond the control of any one being, and that clinging to fear could only lead to darkness. Chancellor Palpatine's subtle offers of forbidden knowledge no longer held the same sway over him. Anakin listened, but the clarity and confidence of his new position allowed him to see the shadow behind every word. The truth came soon enough. Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious. Anakin wasted no time. He went to the Council, and alongside Yoda and Mace Windu, confronted the Sith Lord. The battle was fierce, the room filled with the blaze of lightsabers and the crackle of lightning, but the strength of three masters working as one overwhelmed Sidious. When the fight ended, the silence felt almost unreal. Anakin stood with his lightsaber lowered, the darkness receding from the chamber. The Force was calm within him, and he knew in that moment that he had become the master the galaxy had needed all along.